All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Miguel Diaz. I am the program coordinator for the Jefferson-Mon Valley area. That would be probably, the South Hills going into the east of Pittsburgh. So Turtle Creek, McKeesport, West Mifflin area. I know I have one of my tutors here. I'm not familiar with the other tutors on the call, but um, feel free to ask any questions again in the chat. I'm sure as a program coordinator, I can answer that for you, or I can wait till the end to answer more specific questions. Okay. All right. So I am going to present a little bit about what it is to be a program coordinator, right? Again, some of our tutors may know us as the people who put together their matches, and that is one of the roles that we play here at Literacy Pittsburgh. But we also have other responsibilities on top of that. So again, any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. Okay. It's not. All right. So as program coordinators, we are responsible. I like to, this is not from our job description, but this is how I would describe ourselves. We're responsible for managing relationships with students, tutors, and community partners. We are also responsible for compliance of our program, right? We're kind of the first line of compliance. We got to make sure that our programming is in line with the Pennsylvania Department of Education standards. I will talk a little bit about that. Not give too much detail, but we'll kind of allude to what it is that we do to be able to keep compliant with the education standards. And that's important because, our funding, 50% of our funding comes from the Department of Education. So a lot of the time, if your coordinator is talking about intake paperwork or testing, that's stuff that we are responsible for in order to keep in line with the standards that set forth by the Pennsylvania Department of Education. Okay. Our relationship with students involves conducting intake paperwork. A lot of our students, when they come to our program, they are screened through an orientation, and then they decide whether to take classes at our downtown office or through our tutoring program, which is where you guys fit in, right? We are the people who do their intake paperwork. We get to meet the student, learn about their goals, um, kind of get a sense of what they want to accomplish in the program. That gives us an insight into what kind of what materials we would be assigning them if they're ESL students or if they're, a high school, uh, what we call high school equivalency student. Those are students who are going to be working on their GED. But we also are responsible for doing most of the testing. Now, if it's an ESL student, whenever we do their intake paperwork, we would right away do some testing with them, just to see what their level is. The test itself is about 15 minutes, so we are able to do it in that initial meeting. However, if the student is interested in high school equivalency, sometimes we have to sign them up for testing. That is conducted many times through our downtown office, but also we can if the student doesn't have a computer or they don't have transportation to be able to do it either online or at our downtown office, we sometimes go out there, drive to a local library wherever it is that the program coordinator is situated, go to a local library, meet with the student, and have them take their test there. So it's a little bit more involved in some cases as well. We also give the student, right, once they have their testing, we give them a timeline as to how long it might take for them to receive a tutor, right, to be able to be paired with a tutor. Now, this varies, for every area. And if you are interested in kind of, interested in the average wait time in your area, if you want to find out, maybe you're interested in taking on another student. I'm sure your coordinator would love to add another student to your group or pair, right? But if you are interested in kind of what the general timeline for your area is, feel free to reach out to your program coordinator. We are also, again, you guys are familiar with this part, familiar with the matching of students, right? We are here to pair students with tutors, ensure that they have the materials that are appropriate for the student's level, the student's goals, and kind of what they wish to accomplish in general. So yeah, that's part of the matching. I'll talk a little bit about the other side, which you guys are familiar with, but um, in general, with the matching, it's putting together the materials, ensuring that the schedules fit, right? That's a big part of our job as well. The logistics of our students able to meet with their tutor. Again, a lot of the time, transportation can be an issue. So we try to find tutors, we try to find students that are able to meet at a local library or coffee shop. A lot of the time I'm calling libraries, making sure that they're, especially during the pandemic, it was a little bit tricky with hours and of service at libraries and whatnot. But now it's a little bit better. But yeah, definitely looking into places, coffee shops, libraries where students are able to meet with their tutors. That's something we do as well. Um, and again, keeping track of students' progress. And this is really important. This is part of, again, the Pennsylvania Department of Education standards and what they kind of set forth for us, making sure that we are testing our students every 40 to 60 hours. And we'll have in general, we'll have every student situation is different because they start at a different point of the year, right? So if I had a student who started in the summer, at this point, they're reaching that mark of 40 to 60 years, for 40 to 60 hours, sorry. However, if I have a student starting now, they probably won't be ready to take that post test until maybe sometime in the new year, February, I would say. And again, it's keeping track of all those different timelines for every student, every tutor pair, and ensuring that we are testing them at the appropriate time. Of course, we love to see the progress in that, which is why in the scores, right? Which is why we test only every 40 to 60 hours. Okay, so this is just kind of a timeline of what it looks like for our students: intake, testing, tutoring, timeline update, matching, and then retesting slash like goals met, right? If at that point they are ready to take their GED or took their GED, then we're able to move them on to whatever their next step is. And this is the part that many of you guys are familiar with. As area coordinators, we are looking for a student that fits generally your criteria, right? A lot of our tutors live within specific areas. That's why they're assigned to us. They also have, in some cases, transportation issues or limitations, right, with driving. So we're there to kind of work out those details with the tutor and the student, making sure we find a location that's appropriate for both of you guys to meet. If you guys have any questions in regards to where you guys can meet, generally it's a public space. So in the nicer days of the year, you guys could meet at a park potentially. But generally we try at libraries, coffee shops, places like that. Again, we're responsible for assigning materials and discussing these with you guys, right? I know a lot of the time our tutors come with little or no experience, whether it be teaching ESL or working on GED material. And we are responsible for kind of knowing the material, for knowing the different levels and goals that the materials are trying to touch upon, right? So if you guys have any questions in regards to the books that you guys are currently assigned, you guys could reach out to your program coordinator. We also have a tutoring specialist. She was actually recently hired, so this might be important news for you guys. Before it was Katie, so you guys might have been familiar with Katie. Lindsay will be joining us as the tutoring specialist. I believe in maybe I think the 16th. So if you guys have any questions or you guys hear from Lindsay, Crumley. She will be the new tutoring specialist. She'd be a person that if you guys have questions about maybe if your student has a set of goals that maybe are not being addressed by the current book, Lindsay could probably put something together for you and your student. But yeah, just in general, if you guys have any questions about the materials, should be a good resource. And feel free to reach out to your program coordinator or Lindsay herself. She'll probably go through us either way, but just in regards to any of that stuff. Okay. And a lot of the responsibilities also they have to deal with answering any questions, providing follow-up, the things that I'm discussing at this moment. If you guys feel that your student is maybe maybe you guys both don't consider the material relevant, we can find something that is better suited for you guys. Okay. And I'm gonna stop sharing for a second so that I can check the chat because um okay. Yeah, so I have a question here, and I guess I could address it now. So the role, I think there's a couple of parts in my role that I enjoy, right? So I think the question is, what is the best part, your favorite part of your role? What is the least favorite part of your role? A couple of favorite parts, probably they deal with the relationship with the student, being able to meet them for the first time, learning about their goals, learning a little bit about their kind of history, their background, right? Um, our students are very complex people. They come from different parts of the world. I've always kind of been inclined to learn about different cultures and areas of the world. So learning about that is probably my favorite part. I also enjoy the data management part of my job a lot. I'll talk a little bit about that in a moment, but sometimes I had to manage really large projects and keeping track of that data and ensuring that we are compliant with the Pennsylvania Department of Education regulations is actually kind of satisfying in a way. So I'll talk a little bit about that, but the data management I think is also another good part. The um, the part that it's not that I don't like it or that it's my least favorite, but it's definitely the where sometimes I feel like we it's out of my control in some cases, right? So that's students are not meeting with their tutors often, and then I have to kind of inquire as to why that's not the case, right? Why they're not meeting with their and I never jump into the conclusion to say that our students are just not interested. That's very rarely the case. With adult learners, they're here because they want to learn. They're here. They came to us. It's not like we recruited them from someplace. They came to us because they felt that at this moment in their life, they needed to improve a certain skill, whether it be learning English or they want to get their GED, to have a better life, have a better job, etc. So I know that it's never because the student is simply not interested. But I do know that there are circumstances that come up in students' lives, whether it be somebody gets sick, their kid gets sick, they get sick, or they lose their job in some cases and makes it more difficult. Um, childcare kind of falls through. All of those circumstances, which sometimes are outside of my control, are things that I wish we could do something about, but in some cases we're unable to. I will touch upon a little bit about that. So yeah, let's just keep that in mind. Okay. All right. Going back to the presentation just to uh, continue. All right. So uh, again, we have what the timeline looks like for you guys. Looking for a student that fits your criteria. Some students, some tutors have preferences into where they're going to meet, what times they're going to meet. So looking and making sure that both the student and the tutor's preferences kind of align is sometimes tricky. I try to make it work as best as possible. I try to reach out to the student, to the tutor to see if there's any flexibility. And if you're if you're wondering, if you're, for example, if your schedule changes, right? I always tell our students and our tutors this. If your schedule changes, you can feel free to reach out to your program coordinator, let them know that you have updated availability. That might make it easier for you to receive an additional student or a new student. Um, if you've been waiting for a little bit, right? Sometimes it gets complicated with schedules, but definitely reach out to your program coordinator anytime you have updated your availability, whether it be you found a new job or a part-time job or any of those circumstances. Um, all right, I'm going to move on to the next slide. All right, so the reporting that you guys fill out is something that we also occupy our time with as program coordinators. This is where we get to learn how how your tutor pair is going. If there are any changes in your circumstances, again, if you want to update your availability on there, you can go ahead and do that. This is how we are able to keep track of the hours your student has been learning. Um, and it's important to do that again because we want to be compliant with the Pennsylvania Department of Education guidelines, and also it allows us to know where in their 40 to 60 hours the student is at. Is it time for them to get retested or not, right? Um, and this is also a place where students can share some of those struggles that I indicated earlier, right? If they've lost their jobs or if they are looking for a new job and want some support from Literacy Pittsburgh to look for a new job or apartment searching, right? Any of those things. This is a good place to kind of go to. And I think that this is a place where you guys as tutors could also help us a little bit. So I'd have to, we have a referral form that your student can kind of sign up, and it's on our website for the student. It's called lpstudent.com is the website. But the the link for the referrals is lpstudent.com/support. Okay. And I'm gonna kind of show you guys what's on here. So if your student is indicating that they have problems with transportation, healthcare, housing, this is a good place you could send them to, or even if they haven't indicated any of these, right? It's always good to let them know that this is available for them. And this is again kind of trying to get ahead of those issues that might prevent your student from attending your tutoring sessions, or even if they're working on their own for a little bit. I just want to put this out there, that we do have a referral form if they're facing any barriers with any of these circumstances, right? Typically, if you're working with an ESL student, you would say, I'm an immigrant student who lives in Allegheny County, um, and you would fill this form out. They would fill this form out, right? These are the kinds of things that we could help and receive referrals for: childcare, transportation, housing or utilities, food, record expungement, healthcare. So if feel free to just kind of go over it with your students if you like. We want it to be there before any issues with like attendance arise, if we can at all prevent them through this. Okay. And I know sometimes, the relationship with your student, it varies, right, from tutor to tutor. If your student doesn't feel comfortable letting you know about their, circumstances, that's okay. But we want to provide another avenue for them to be able to get in contact with us regarding these barriers. All right. I'm going to continue sharing. And again, these are just some examples. I had a screenshot of it. And just for everybody to have it, lpstudent.com is our student website. It's different from like our Literacy Pittsburgh website. It's different from any of the tutoring websites that you guys may have available. This one's specifically for students to find out about programs that are going on, about to fill out forms like this one related to barriers as well. Okay. Um, this is where I'll probably talk a little bit about the data management. But so every program coordinator, on top of having, your the relationship between student and tutor pairing, we also have outside projects that we're working on, and these vary from area to area. At any given time, well, program coordinators are working to expand their projects within their own region, right? Um, this could be as simple as, attending a tabling. Last week, was it last week? Yes. Last week I was at CCAC South Campus doing a tabling. Obviously, our mission is always to kind of just be a presence if students are want our services, being there for them. If any tutors or volunteers are available for us to kind of bring into our program, that's also another uh, form of kind of tabling and recruiting tutors. So we're constantly doing tablings or visiting libraries, putting out flyers for any upcoming events that we have in our area or even in our downtown office. We are kind of the people who kind of disseminate the word, right? Spread the word of what's going on in our areas and at Literacy Pittsburgh. We are also responsible for hosting orientations. Now, most of our orientations have been transitioned to the downtown office, but more recently, we have now been in charge of hosting orientations. And that could be for anybody who is interested in classes or tutoring. And if you have any questions about this, right, I know sometimes students let their tutors know that they have a friend or they have a colleague who's interested in services. If you have any questions about, when is the next orientation in my area, we do advertise it and we let students know. However, if you are interested in the dates, contact your program coordinator. I think that there's one coming up in December in the South Hills. So if you have any questions about that, let me know. But and anybody in any area can attend those orientations. They are hosted by the area coordinators, but in reality, we just want to make them accessible for all of Pittsburgh. However, if there's somebody coming from a different area, that's fine. They can attend those. Okay, so definitely contact your program coordinator about that if you're interested or your student has somebody who's interested in joining our classes. Okay. And that kind of brings me to another point, which is the the student kind of sign up. If you know of anybody in the community or your student has a friend who is interested, they could also just go through our like regular process. This is the process that every student has to go through. They have to fill out an online form that indicates they're interested in our programs. So um, give me a second. I'm just arranging my screens. Yes. So if you have somebody who's interested, um, you could send them to our online form, and that is on our regular website, literacypittsburgh.com, .org, sorry, /sign up, and they could fill this form out. And this would put them on our internal database. Uh, this is something that as coordinators we are constantly doing. We're constantly fielding calls from new students who have heard of our program through a friend or a colleague, and we help them sign this themselves up on here, or we send them the link so that they could sign themselves up. So if you guys, again, I want to equip you guys with the tools to be able to do this, or send somebody into this form if you guys ever encounter them. Okay. So part of our responsibilities with being a program coordinator is expanding our footprint, recruiting students, recruiting new tutors. Um, Sometimes last year I was managing classes in a partnership with Casa San Jose, and I was in charge of doing data testing, post testing, placement of about 200, more than 200 students. So those are kind of side projects aside from, the one-on-one tutoring that we are handling between you and your student. We also have we have classes in some cases. We have larger tutoring groups that we're managing. We're going out into the community to do tabling and kind of get to know different organizations that we can partner with. And that's written into our job description, being able to go out into our areas and expand our footprint on behalf of Literacy Pittsburgh, right? So move on to the next one. As you guys kind of have seen, there is no kind of typical day for a program coordinator. It can include doing an intake and testing for a student, checking if a student and their tutor have met for the first time, um, conducting, adding students to our database. Like I said, making sure that they fill this form out, that they appear on our database, that their contact information is correct. All that is our responsibility as a program coordinators to handle that information and ensure that we have accurate and uh, updated information. Read the reports that you guys send to us, and we're also in charge of putting the mail orders for you guys. So if any books go out, your program coordinator uh, put that order in. We're also if we're having a tabling event, we have to put together flyers for the event. We have to go out into the community to do the tabling, um, all that stuff. So just some examples of what we do. For professional development and compliance, we're also responsible for some of this. This is written again into our job description. We're supposed to be trained to be able to give the tests that we give out to your students, right? Again, in some cases with high school equivalency students, they are tested by our downtown staff, but most of your students have been tested by us, by program coordinators. We are constantly, learning about best practices, whether it be, learning differences or divergent learning. Uh, we most recently we have been focusing on the Best Plus 3.0, which is probably the first time that many of you guys are hearing about this. But um, the student that any ESL the test that any ESL student has been taking up until this point has been the Best Plus 2.0. 3.0 just came out. We are currently being trained to give the 3.0 out. Um, I, I think definitely by next year we will only be using 3.0. This year we are still using 2.0 because we have some students who took their initial test in the 2.0 and we have to post test them in the 2.0. But we will be transitioning over to 3.0 completely, and you'll probably hear about this in the next month or so, I would say. And this is not going to change your circumstances at all. It might require your tutor, your program coordinator to test your student an additional time. Since we're doing 2.0 right now, we have to post test them in 2.0, and then we have to pre-test them with the 3.0 for the following. But you'll hear a bit more about this in the coming like month or so. And all these tests have to be manually input into our system, our internal system, and the Pennsylvania Department of Education has their own system. They call it, it has a name, but it's by Pennsylvania Department of Education. So yeah, managing those databases, they are very strict about when students get tested, ensuring that the tests are on their database. So if we're, reaching out to you guys and have sent out a couple emails in regards to being able to test your student, it's probably because we're trying to kind of keep up with this. Okay. As a program coordinator in general, I see myself as a um, problem solver, right? Um, we don't have the same kind of problems rising every single day. We know that we have multiple timelines for every student. Again, they don't start on the same date, right? They're at a different level. They have different books. They have different goals. So being able to kind of deal with any of those like kinks that may come up, right? Whether it be a student wants a different book, or their schedule has changed. We need to find a new tutor, or we have a new partner who has reached out to us and they want to start a new class with us. All of those things are problems that we kind of solve as we go, right? No week is completely the same. Some weeks are a little bit slower than others. Um, but some weeks are really tough with when we're managing, 200 students in 10 classes at one time. So these are just examples of the kind of work that we do. And again, if you guys have any questions, I'm going to be stopping the recording, and we can answer some more questions. But feel free to drop them in the chat as well.